Welcome back to the swamp, my friends. Today we are taking another in-depth look at another cryptid. You guys have been requesting this one for a very long time, and I thought it was about time to get to it. Me and my good friend T.W. Grimm teamed up once again to bring you the best possible details that we could. If you enjoy these writings that you're about to hear, please be sure to check out my friend T.W. Grimm. His link will be in the top of the description. He writes a lot of creepy horror-themed novels that I think you might like. The most frightening monsters, in my opinion, are those who are indistinguishable from the rest of us. They exploit their ability to blend in with the crowd, hiding right before your eyes as they prey upon the unwary. By the time you discover their secret identity, it is already far, far too late. The very worst people can blend in with the general populace with the greatest of ease, at least at a casual glance. Their unthreatening appearance and mannerisms belie the dangerous maniac who lurks inside. Ted Bundy, for an example, was a very approachable-looking young man with blandly pleasant good looks, and John Wayne Gacy was plump, jolly fellow who was known to appear at children's birthday parties dressed as a clown. North Korean dictator Kim Jong-il was an all-powerful megalomaniac, a tyrant whose very name struck mortal terror in the hearts of his people. But despite the enormous stature lent by the ruthless nature of his regime, Kim Jong-il was actually a diminutive man who stood just shy of 5 feet, 3 inches in height. The real-life monsters who walk among us don't necessarily look like monsters, or even seem particularly dangerous. They hide their true form in a cloak of congeniality, a murderous beast with a wholly unremarkable outer appearance. They walk in our midst without fear of discovery, predators in a clever disguise. Who among us is the wolf, and who is a fellow sheep in the herd? What if it were possible for these malignant maniacs to transform their outer appearance to match the monster within? Imagine a remorseless killer who can actually manipulate the very fabric of reality at whim. An impulsive and immoral maniac with the power to become any creature of their choosing. Imagine if one of these people lived within your own community, wreaking havoc in the dead of night with poisonous fangs and razor-sharp claws. The terror and paranoia would quickly become unbearable, and the same fever question would burn on the tip of everyone's tongue. Who is doing this, and how can they be stopped? In the American Southwest, these practitioners of dark magic were considered to be a very real danger. They were called elusive, which translate to, by means of it, it goes on all fours. They are also known as Skinwalkers. The plains of the American Southwest is home to an indigenous people called the Navajo. Along with their distant cousins the Apache, the Navajo are thought to have migrated to their present location from northwestern Canada and eastern Alaska, as the natives of both regions speak a very similar Athabascan language. The Navajo are a spiritual people who believed it was the duty of they, the Earth people, to maintain a balanced harmony between themselves, the holy people, and the Earth itself, which they referred to as the Fourth World, or the Glittering World. Magic was a widely accepted part of daily life. The medicine of the Navajo was either practical or spiritual in nature, intended to either heal the physical self or cure a malady of the spirit. Medicine men were respected members of society who fulfilled the dual role of both doctor and clergy, addressing all of their people's health concerns with a variety of ceremonies. However, there was also a sect of deviant medicine men who dealt in black magic, former healers who had been corrupted by the power and blinded by the darkness in their own hearts. These people were considered to be witches, malevolent beings who reveled in creating misery and mischief among their own people. To become a Skinwalker, it was necessary to join a secret society, but the price of admission was a steep dive into damnation. The initiate was forced to commit the murder of a close relative, preferably a sibling. Familicide was a grave sin, a disturbance in the delicate balance between the Navajo, the natural world, and the world of the holy people. Nefarious deeds, however, were the entire purpose of this nameless society. Their goal was to sow the seeds of chaos in order to create paranoia, unraveling the fabric of society through acts of terrorism. Although a skinwalker could be very difficult to identify through outward appearances alone, it was said that their eyes would retain animal characteristics when they were in their human form, and likewise, the eyes of their animal identities were curiously human in appearance. It was believed that the skinwalkers' eyes will glow red if exposed to bright light, mirroring the murderous impulses that burn within their blackness of their hearts. They often wore the skin of the creature they were most fond of mimicking, usually the hide of a predator. For this reason, the Navajo only wore the skins of the benign grazing animals they hunted or raised for food. To wear a predator's hide as clothing might result in accusations of performing witchcraft, which would lead to serious consequences for the accused. Their lives were both guided and dominated by Hozol, the Dene traditional teachings. This belief system was given to the Dene by the holy female deity, the White Shell Woman, and the Dene holy people, who were sacred spiritual deities. Within this complicated belief system was the Hozol philosophy, which emphasizes the human ability to be self-empowered through proper thought, communication, and behavior. Hozol is both a way of living and a state of being. As Gary Witherspoon explains in his work, The Central Concepts of the Navajo Worldview, everything that is positive and refers to an environment which is all-inclusive. It is both the state of perfect wellness and balance, the journey one must make in order to attain the station of enlightenment. The Navajo believed very strongly that it was possible to commune with the realm of the supernatural to effect a tangible change in the physical world. Ideally, this communion would take place in the interest of bettering the lives of humankind, but this was not always the case. Skinwalkers are interesting legendary monsters, in that they aren't really monsters in the literal sense. They are people who are gifted in the arts of traditional Navajo medicine, but have elected to turn their backs on the path of harmony, choosing instead to devote their lives to the practice of black magic. Once they've joined the secretive Skinwalker cult and attained their forbidden powers, a Skinwalker can transcend the laws of physics and defy all conventions of reality. They are said to have the ability to fly or make themselves invisible to the naked eye. They can also possess the living by simply staring into their eyes, be it a man, beast, or even an insect, take control of their bodies and use them like living puppets. The hapless victim of the Skinwalker's body jacking is forced to carry out the witch's bidding, no matter how reprehensible the task may seem to the victim. In this manner, they can commit an atrocity without ever even being physically present at the scene of the crime, thus averting the suspicion of their fellow villagers. A single Skinwalker was bad enough, but as a coven, these witches were thought to be able to combine their powers and project their malicious attacks over great distances. Unbound by the moralistic philosophies of Hozol, a Skinwalker coven is free to use their spiritual abilities in any way they see fit. As imperfect human beings with great power and zero accountability, they invariably fall to committing a variety of misdeeds which range from general mischief and theft to chaotic mayhem and outright murder in the Coven of Darkness. While medicine men applied this ability to benefit their people, Skinwalkers used it for their own personal gain. They were often blamed for the myriad of misfortunes that might befall the members of a Stone Age society, from disease and crop failures to stillbirths and unsolved murders. Skinwalkers were a handy scapegoat for social ills and natural disasters. They were the boogeyman who lived among them, an ever-present threat of misfortune, suffering, and death. How can you fight someone who wields such immense power, though? Skinwalkers were notoriously hard to kill. Usually, The destruction of a Skinwalker would involve the services of a particularly skilled medicine man, one who knows spells and ceremonies that can turn the Skinwalker's evil back upon itself. Attempting to kill one by physical means is usually unsuccessful, as the Skinwalker can use their magic to make guns jam and arrows fall out of the air. The bullet or arrowhead must be dipped in white ash, and the projectile must strike its target in the neck. If it penetrates anywhere else, it will harmlessly pass through the Skinwalker's body. If the witch sustains an injury and still manages to escape, a similar wound will appear on the Skinwalker's human form. In the werewolf folklore of Europe, this phenomenon is known as sympathetic wounding. This leaves the creature clearly marked and makes it vulnerable to discovery. If one were to discover the Skinwalker's true identity, they must speak the witch's given name out loud, followed by the accusation, "You are a Skinwalker." At this point, the witch will fall grievously ill and die within a few days. Alternately, if a Skinwalker is captured and the news reaches the ears of the general community, the witch will surely die within a year. The main flaw behind the Skinwalker legend and the Navajo belief system in general is that magic isn't real, right? As the Navajo believed in the forces of good and their ability to influence the natural world, it would be reasonable for them to assume that events with negative consequences were set in motion by forces of evil. From outbreaks of disease to stolen livestock, crippling droughts to unexplained disappearances, most misfortunes could be attributed to the meddling of a witch, and in particular, a Skinwalker. Of course, this isn't actually the case, right? As the wrath of an evil sorcerer pales in comparison to the dumb and blind malevolence of Mother Nature. Outbreaks of disease were the result of contact with harmful and contagious microbes. Thefts and murders were perpetrated by fellow tribesmen, and weather patterns, both fair and foul, are the result of heat-driven convection in the atmosphere and oceans. But the Navajo were generally unaware of these facts, and even if they did possess this knowledge, it's also a fact that germs, atmospheric conditions, and human nature are very poor scapegoats in times of anger and distress. People want to avenge the outrage of their suffering, if that makes sense. But how can one take vengeance on a rogue weather pattern? How can you go to war with a virus that is invisible to the naked eye? There were some obvious parallels between Skinwalkers and the European legend of the werewolf, although they are very different in most respects. Skinwalkers are evil witches who can change form at will and by choice, whereas werewolves, the tragic figures, doomed to become the savage, unreasoning animal at the rise of every full moon. However, both could be seen as a manifestation of fear, specifically the fear of tragedies which are beyond the control of mortal man. Alternately, it can be interpreted as the fear of the secretive ill intentions of their friends and neighbors. To quote the 1930s era radio serial superhero known as The Shadow, "Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?" In a pre-technological society, where a particularly deep cut in your flesh might spell your doom, the possibility that your fellow man may be secretly plotting against you will weigh heavily on your mind. Although the Navajo belief system stressed the importance of living in a moralistic fashion, they were undoubtedly aware of the aforementioned evil which might lurk in the hearts of the people they depended on for their day-to-day survival. This would certainly be a hard pill to swallow, requiring a scapegoat for the tragedies inflicted on them by nature, happenstance, or even worse, by their own people. The problem with analyzing the legend of the Skinwalker is a lack of first-hand information, as the Navajo are decidedly tight-lipped when it comes to this particular subject. They are reluctant to discuss the legend with non-Navajos or with people they distrust in general. This may be partially due to the old adage, if you speak of the devil, he will appear. But it can be difficult to persuade the Navajo to speak about their own culture in general. The reason for this reluctance was summoned by the Native American academic Adrienne Keene, who wrote, "We, as Native people, are now opened up to a barrage of questions about the beliefs and traditions, but these are not the things that need or should be discussed by outsiders, at all. I'm sorry if that seems unfair, but that's how our culture survives." All speculation aside, there is no doubt that the Navajo were terrified of Skinwalkers, who received the blame for many of their misfortunes. Their collective fear of these wicked sorcerers has echoed throughout the ages. In modern times, Skinwalkers are the antagonists in numerous works of horror fiction, films, and creepypastas, capturing the imaginations of millions of people throughout the world. Indeed, the popularity of this subject matter is what prompted the creation of this documentary. The popularity of the Skinwalker legend isn't terribly surprising. The idea of a powerful and malignant being who can change form at will is definitely unsettling. We as a species have always relied heavily on trusting our fellow humans to survive in a world full of unpredictable peril. When that guiding light of the unfailing trust gutters and fades, our chances for survival plummet into the dark void of anarchistic individuality, a disaster which historically precipitates the end of civilization. We are herd animals at heart, and the bonds of our mutual trust are of the utmost importance in maintaining a state of equilibrium in our social interactions. Without these complex social bonds that glue our society together, humankind would have never survived the early stages of our development as a species. Whether or not you believe that such things could exist in the natural world, stories of the Navajo legend of the Skinwalkers continue to fascinate and thrill audiences on a deep, visceral level. Thank you once again for joining us with another investigative documentary. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching this documentary on Navajo Skinwalkers. This has been a highly requested one, and I was really excited to be able to do it. It took me a little while, but I figured it would be fun to cover some lesser known cryptids before we got into some popular ones. Now, I know a lot of you are asking for the Wendigo one, and that is on the way, I promise. If you guys enjoyed this documentary, please hit that like button as it helps me out a ton. The more likes this video gets, the more YouTube promotes it to fresh new eyes, and who doesn't need more spooks in their life? If you're new to the swamp, why not subscribe and join us? Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and be sure not to miss all the new videos. I upload them almost every single day on all things natural and supernatural. If you have a story you would like to share in the storytime videos, whether it's a Skinwalker story or something different, be sure to submit that at swampdweller.net or the email you can find in the description down below. If you're on the go and you want to listen to your favorite Swamp Dweller scary stories without using up all your mobile data, be sure to visit iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, or pretty much every other major podcast retailer. You can find them and download them there for free. Thank you guys, as always, for supporting these documentaries and videos. I'll see you guys soon with another creepy video.